Almost there, waiting on YouTube.
Is Dave online?
No, Dave is not here.
That's what I was trying to figure out.
All right, ready to roll.
All right, good evening, everybody. I will call this meeting of the Alice King Community School Governing Council to order at 5:38 p.m. And I can confirm that we have a quorum. So our first item of business is to adopt the agenda, and I noticed that somehow or another, between lots of sets of eyes, we managed to make a typo. So number 3, approval of the minutes, should have been the November meeting, will have to be moved to our January meeting. Apart from that change, does anyone have any other comments on the agenda? All right, seeing none, can I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda with the removal of item number 3?
I'll make the motion with the removal of item number 3.
Thank you, Rhonda. May I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Veronica. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. I had no public signed up for comment, and I see no public, so no public. Comments from council members. Anyone have anything that they'd like to say this evening? All right, surprisingly, I too have nothing to talk about tonight. So Ms. Christie, that means you are up.
So I'm just going to take a moment to pull that report up. I have the table of student enrollment so that you can look at our enrollment goal for the year in comparison to our actuals for November and December. There we go. We are currently sitting at 378 students. Laura and I did have an opportunity to speak with the director of the School Budget Bureau for PED regarding the decrease in student enrollment for our school and what that is going to mean for us. And I think it actually was better news than I was hoping for. Yeah. So they are, right now, we're estimating a difference of about $202,000 between what our original 910B5 and our original budget was set at compared to the change with the decrease in enrollment. So
like $2 million right now, right? The budget balance.
Carryover, yes.
Just reduce that.
Well, and we've already, as I have shared throughout the year, I was anticipating the decrease. So I didn't fill a K1 teacher position, and therefore I didn't fill the EA position that went along with that. We had two EAs leave during the first semester, and we just didn't fill those positions. And then, so between that and then what we can shift over for contracted services over to carryover, we're going to be fine. So we're not going to have any staffing cuts or anything like that.
Yay, that is excellent news. Yes. Excellent. Thank you guys for managing our finances so well and thinking ahead and having that meeting. So thank you.
Yes, that actually felt good to know that, because it was just, I was dreading to hear what the final number was going to be. And this isn't final, but it's at least a rough estimate that we can work with. I mean, I was worried it was going to be over $500,000. And that was going to have some big implications, and knowing that it's only $200,000 and we can reallocate contracted services and where we're sitting right now, I think we're in pretty good shape.
Is that trend continuing at other schools too that you're talking to?
I saw that during conversations at the conference last week. Everybody's, even the AKCS
itself is experiencing it significantly. I mean, they're right now, and I only know this because my son goes to school there, they're going to close Taft, put all the North Valley kids at Taylor and Garfield. So instead of 3 feeders to Valley, there's now going to only be 2. And then they're moving the Bareilles, which one is it, the Hispanic? Yeah. Coronado, that's right. They're moving Coronado and making it a magnet English second language school into Taft's facility, which is mind-boggling to me because Coronado's facility was just upgraded and Taft's facility is falling down. So hopefully there's a push of a bunch of people for a lot of reasons, but the enrollment is significant everywhere.
Are they gonna try to cap schools opening their charters allowed to help with it, or are they gonna?
Not that I've heard, I haven't heard, I mean, there's not currently a law or anything to cap the number of schools that can open. I don't know, I mean, unless the authorizers have a cap within their own system.
How many open a year on average?
Say that again.
How many schools charters open a year? Are we seeing 2 new ones a year? Are we seeing?
I don't
It
know.
hasn't been that much in the last few years. It's been pretty stable in the last couple of years. There hasn't been any new ones. Explore expanded
Right.
like crazy, but apart from that, yeah.
People are just having less kids or they're stopping going to school.
Well, I think it's both,
I think there's a lot of homeschool and online school happening.
yes.
I think there's a lot of homeschool and online school happening because there's online programs that you don't have to get your kid anywhere or do anything, and if they struggle, they just get home.
Yeah, so, and then we've already had, 80-day happened December 2nd, and our 80-day number was around 378. And so, as you know, for next year's budget, they take the 80 and 120-day average for the budget. So, you know, I anticipate, budget for next year is probably gonna be built around 375, I would imagine.
Sorry, one more question. So they forced you into this 425 estimate, right?
They actually had us at 450.
Yeah, it's at 450.
Yeah. Just really push back on that, make them do the average.
Yeah, they estimated growth for us. I budgeted us at 425 because I really thought we would be able to do that. And that was the plan, but then PED put us at 450 with growth, and we're like, no, that we're not going to do that. I mean, I didn't want to because I didn't want to increase class sizes, and I didn't feel like it was necessary. And I thought as long as we can be at 425, we'll be fine. All right, so we had student-led conferences right before Thanksgiving break. The expectation is that teachers work really hard to schedule conferences with every single family. Our expectation is 100% attendance. That doesn't always happen during the conference window, so we do still have teachers trying to schedule. They have reached out to some families numerous times trying to schedule those conferences. So I don't have a total of where we're at with our total attendance, but it is well over 90% from what I've seen come through at this point. So I think overall they were well attended. We just had every classroom, not every classroom, several classrooms had like 1 or 2 that they were trying to reschedule with. Middle of year assessments were administered the first week of December for grades K through 2. It was in the areas of reading and math through iStation. Grades 3 through 8, it was reading only, and that was because we did our last math assessment was done at the end of October. The math runs based on end of trimester versus beginning, middle, and end of year. And then we'll have all of those results from the assessments in January. So we'll be able to review those, and hopefully I'll be able to have that all for you at the January meeting. Our playground installation starts on Friday. Woo-hoo! We're super excited about that. It's going to be on the east playground. We have a new play structure called a crab trap that's going to be installed. So all the equipment that's out there, let's see, we have some, we have a climbing wall, we have monkey bars, and a couple other things. All of that's being discarded. They all came with us from the old building, so this is something that we have to just double check, Laura, okay? Because it's no longer, they can't pick it up and move it anymore. It's not structurally sound enough to be able to do that, so it is going to be disposed of. And then they're installing 10 permanent benches in different locations around the playground. A future phase will include a shade structure and then of course new fields, and I mean we have plans for continued playground improvements. The playground company thinks that they'll have everything finished by January 8th. So they're going to be working all through winter break. So of course we're on winter break starting Friday through January 5th. We'll come back on the 6th for PD for staff. Students will return on the 7th. We have a foundation meeting on the 8th at 5:15. Our PPLN application is due to APS on January 10th. And that is also, which is also a 6th through 8th grade school day. And then on the 14th, we'll have an equity council meeting. Well, that is all I have. Does anybody have any questions?
No, thank you, Miss Christie. All right, do we have a foundation or equity this evening?
We do.
Just giving updates.
All righty, go ahead, Miss Anna.
Okay.
Which
so-
one are you doing first? Just for Dominic.
Foundation
Okay.
first. Obviously, it's capital outlay time, so that's our priority. We had a lunch and learn, and we actually had a few parents come, so that was good to learn about capital outlay and how they can support. So, we got our application in, is that what it's called? So now we gotta get that money, gotta start reaching out to our legislatures to get the money, so where we are.
Wonderful, thank you. And Equity Council?
So with Equity Council, we reviewed the final version of the CLR framework, and admin is going to be working on the implementation progress rating scale this month. And then on February 7th, there's going to be a PD with staff on the CLR framework, and the staff will complete the rating scale as well. And then admin will compile the information and report back to the Equity Council at the February or March Equity Council meeting. And then we also talked about and started looking at the membership application and looking at that and making some updates and getting that ready for to be put out for new members, potential members.
Oh, good, wonderful.
What does that mean, the rating scale? Are you guys creating a scale? Or have you created one and you're having them provide information?
It was the one that the governing council approved along with the CLR framework back in May. So that was part of the feedback that you all had provided, I think in March or April. And so then we developed a progress implementation guide along with a rating scale. I think it's on a scale of like 1 to 4 with how far along are we for this particular item, how far along are we in the process? And so we're going to be going item by item and taking a look at that to see where are we with the implementation of this whole document.
I see, and so you're getting ratings from people that are looking at it.
Right, yeah, because we have our perspective, right, but we would like to hear the teacher's perspective on what they think, and then we'll compile all of that information and to take back to Equity Council.
That's awesome.
All right, anything else, Miss Danielle?
That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All righty, Miss Veronica, you are up. Finance reports, please.
Okay, the finance committee met and reviewed the November financials. This included the bank statement, the check register, and any large transactions, which I would say are payments over 5,000. I believe everybody got copies of that information. We also reviewed several journal entries and the November budget summary. I also had the opportunity to review an employee file, which is a requirement that we do on a quarterly basis. All the documentation for that file, compare it to salaries, all those type of things. So that checked out. And then we have one more tonight, which we'll tell you about.
So you said, just to make sure I catch that, so you reviewed journal entries, an employee file, what was the thing between that?
About
We're
the
gonna
journal entries and the budget summary.
budget summary.
And we're gonna look at that right now. All right, Miss Laura, is there anything, where do you want to start? Should we scroll through the check register?
Yeah, we can do this one. There's really not anything new to highlight on the check register. It's pretty standard this month. Just a reminder, whenever you see USDA, that's our food program, the revenue's coming in for it.
That's the September payment.
It's always about 2 months behind,
Yeah.
yeah. And we did have a 4-5 field trip. You can see those revenues popping up on there as well. I think that was to the Nutcracker. Yeah.
Most of the high dollars ones we see are related to payroll.
Yes, they're all payroll or insurance.
Yeah, insurance, the items that we typically will see were the CES, or the basis payments, which are typical.
Yeah. Does anyone have any questions on the check register? All right, if we could switch to budget report.
Okay. And again, I always highlight our 24,000 funds just because we need to spend those to zero. Christy and I worked on stipends this week, so you should definitely see a big decrease in that one in the next January meeting for it. Title III, we actually spent all but $9.55. That fund's a bit restrictive, and it's, I know my dollars are like, spend it. It's kind of hard to spend it. It's for English language learners only. It's very specific items you can spend it on. So I'm not quite convinced we'll get down to zero on that, but we got pretty close. So I was pretty proud of that. And again, just a reminder with IDEAB, I'm still holding off on allocating the rest of that amount until we finalize like PPLN and I see who we're reimbursing for, so I can kind of strategize who I'm putting under what, if that makes sense. Fund 31200 on line 17, that's our lease assistance. And I know it's only showing, I think, what, 42% remaining. I actually did a journal entry to transfer over what we've spent partially so far on our lease in HB 33. So in January, you should see that number go down as well.
All righty, any questions for Laura or Veronica on the budget? All right, seeing none, I will make a motion to approve the financials for the period ending November 30th, 2024. Can I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Veronica. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, we have one bar tonight.
We do. So this one I actually had tried to do, I think it was back in August or September, and they disapproved it because they wanted our final audited financial statements before they approved it. So here it is back again. It's instructional materials. It's a special appropriation fund. We actually got the cash for this outright last year for it, and so I wanted to make sure that we had that balance in our account so we can start looking at possibly spending that down. However, it is a non-reverting fund, so we don't have to spend this one ASAP.
All right, any questions? I always like when we're gonna add money. Any questions about this bar? All right, can I get a motion to approve the bar ending in 0019-I?
So,
Thank you, Veronica. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Rhonda. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And that's all we've got this week, right? All right. Pat, do you have anything to report?
I don't have anything to report on nominating, but as far as professional development goes, at the conference last week, I was able to download a file that I'm going to give to Dave. The PED has worked with Amy Beal to do an outline of an onboarding manual. And so I'll give it to him since he put together our onboarding manual, and maybe he can get some ideas from it. Kind of have a feeling, because Missy worked on it too, that she had some input. And when we did ours, she said there was nothing ever available. So I think a lot of our stuff is in there. Yeah, but we'll see. I just want to report on the conference. I thought it was an excellent conference. Did you go?
I did not get to go this time.
Much better than the last two I've attended. The format was different. They're really getting high tech. Instead of signing an attendance sheet when you go into a class, you click on a QR code and it goes right to them, and within minutes you get a confirmation back saying that you have attended that class. So we'll see when it evidently now has to go to some kind of a reporting thing. We'll see if it all hits that. But I thought it was really, really good. There was a lot more, at least I felt, a lot more networking between different schools, general council people, governing council people, which was good. The format was different. I went to a lot of Kelly Callahan's classes.
She's good.
She's really, really good. And I went to one, which I'll talk about later when we get to policy, or I can actually talk about it now, of Sue Fox's breakouts. And I came back with this document, which was amazing. What she did is put together policies and procedures for the charter schools, and she references every act, even U.S. government acts that pertain to charter schools, and they're alphabetized as to what the heading is. And she's actually bolded the policies or notices that are explicitly required, and then italicized those which are required in some circumstances. So this is going to be my Bible to go through the policy manual over the next period of time. And she didn't give us any verbiage, but we can look that up in the actual wording of the act or the.
And I'm going to guess that when you go through, I think this next year we're supposed to look at bylaws, but we can also keep working on policy manual, that we can check the boxes on a lot of them.
I think so, yeah.
Because I think Jenny's goal was to get through the whole policy manual before
I think she did.
except for the one that we've got up tonight, because that one we
Right,
hadn't
that's
had,
new.
yeah, it's new.
Yeah.
So I think that hopefully you'll be pleasantly
I
surprised that we can
I
check
think
the boxes.
I think our committee's going to be in good shape going forward, yeah.
Does that delineate between policy and procedure? Does it cover both areas? Or is that
Both
just
areas.
Policy.
No, it's like this one here, admission and enrollment policy and lottery procedures. It's broken down between the two things that pertain to it. And one of the things that we're going to be looking at, and I haven't, honestly, I've been so busy, I haven't had a chance to look at our policy manual, but there are some things that we can or should do to give preference to children of military families, since we have so many military families in the area. And I don't know that we've ever addressed that issue.
I don't know that, not why I've been on the board.
No, I don't think so.
That seems like a good recruitment opportunity. I mean, this is
Absolutely.
one of the closest schools to base, right? We're actually a really good school, and there's not a lot of other good options that are close, right?
And because there's a lot of mobility at the labs, Sandia and the Air Force with civilians, I'm wondering if maybe we should expand that to that population as well. Because if they get transferred in,
If we can.
they miss the lottery, whatever. And we, as long as we go ahead and do it for military families, I think that as long as we don't restrict something of policy or procedure, we can expand it. It's like, government, it's like federal versus state laws or local laws.
Do we already do that? Give military families preference over the?
I don't think
Are we
so.
allowed to do that?
You can under under that statute.
Under
It's
the
new.
statute.
Well, that's
It's
awesome.
passed in the last 2 years because of the value. I know this because of my other board service. I heard a whole on this last month. I was actually going to raise it. So it's very timely. And another board that I sit on, the education committee of that board, we partner with Kirtland a lot, and we've had a bunch of presentations from base personnel and commanders. The whole base commander came and talked to us, but it was a push that the base and the Greater Albuquerque Chamber, with legislative help, made a few years ago, so that there could be military preference in a lot of things across the board, whether it's public school, charter schools, or other things, because of the movement and the transient nature of people.
Well, I know that when my husband was in the military, and he retired, I still had a child in high school. We always tried to move in the summer. Well, the lottery's over by that point in time. So, those families would have to wait if they even decided to do it. another year. So this is good because they can do an application at that time.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, I
Instead of
just
waiting to
learned about
physically
that
move.
statute.
Yeah.
Is there any type of advertisement we should be doing to get
I
ahead of
don't
that?
know.
Well, I
was
think first we
thinking
gotta
that.
figure out is how we apply this to us. We gotta pass a policy and then we can advertise. We can't do any of it until we finish this
That's
down.
gonna be my priority at this point in time because it is gonna get us a wider audience. So that's the first thing I'm gonna look at is drafting.
From what I understood of it, it's a preference.
Preference.
So it doesn't have to be in policy, it has to be, because we already have sibling preference, now we have staff preference, now it's this military.
Yeah.
So we just need to make sure that our lottery process on our website's updated and that we are making sure that our process matches statute.
According to
Yeah.
Sue though, the lottery procedure.
Yes.
She said
Mhm.
procedure.
Yeah, this is on the lottery.
Yes, right, and that's what's posted on our website,
Yeah.
our lottery.
So that's what we need to look at is, can we identify that as a preference? And if so, then we can do that with the procedures. But Jason, I wanted to kind of follow up if Pat's done on your question in terms of policy versus procedure. Were you talking about the procedures that are required by statute or secondary procedures?
We've got a recommendation from our auditors to update a policy or procedure. We would like to do procedure versus policy. So I'd be interested in reading that document. It's a very nuanced procedure they're asking us for. So I'm guessing it's not covered in there. It would be interesting to read it and see.
Yeah.
And if they've got an example one floating around somewhere, we would like to pick that.
I can
Yeah.
scan it.
I'll bet there's an example one somewhere, or we can
Some school, maybe.
find one, yeah.
I don't know why she did that because look
Thanks
how
for
big it
following
is.
up.
She had like 50 copies. Wow.
Pat,
We
do you
can
have
take it
Yeah,
and
we
scan
can.
it and email it to everybody.
Yeah, I'll scan it.
Do you want us to do that now tonight? It'll be pretty quick on our machine.
If you want to, but I have 2 copies of this. I may.
Good.
snuck the
I would have
second
snuck
copy.
you if you had. I would have done the same thing. All right, anything else on nominating and professional development?
I just want something else to all of that relates to something that I've been wondering about, which is the opportunity we might be missing with the demographic of the folks who work on the Air Force Base being so close by. I know I often do, I don't know if you, Dominic, but when I tell people like, whoa, I didn't know that was there.
Yeah.
And there's things like where we work, there's a parents group that will do pretty nice advertising for schools just based on who people bring up and things like that, that I'm sure within the Air Force community, they probably do something similar.
Yeah.
Certainly they have their own base their own elementary on base, and we'd be competing with the massive renovations they're doing there, but people want choices, and there's opportunity that we can take advantage of.
Well, and I think we, to that point, Fabian, I think that, as we get ready to go into lottery season, maybe we should think about, how we can leverage those types of groups, or if there's a way that maybe you guys could get Christy, and Anna and Danielle on camp, on base to talk about Alice King.
Sure.
Yeah, if there's any way you can give me some information about that parent group or who I could talk to, that would be really helpful, because we work with the education liaison with the Air Force Base, and she sends a lot of families our direction. But if some families don't know to go to that particular office, then, there may be other avenues that we just don't know about that are available on the base that we don't know about. So if any information we could get, we're happy to reach out and start making those connections.
I'll work on that for the parents group
Okay.
in particular.
Well, and if it really is procedure for the preferences, like sibling preference and the other things, then I think we should try to look at getting that teed up, if we need to vote on anything, Christy, at the next meeting, because we could update that preference for the lottery procedures online before we open applications.
So we have a preference for children of staff, right?
Children, staff, and
So
siblings.
it's just, I think we've got all the bits and pieces we can put together.
Yeah, and I don't know that we actually have to, you'll have to tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't know that we're gonna need to update policy for that, because the policy, I think, says we get to set the preferences.
But we do need a procedure.
Yeah. Okay,
Okay.
all right, let's do policy.
All right, well, I kind of gave my report.
Yes.
We're going to do the second reading, this evening of, our policy manual section 6H, which is staff use of restraint and seclusion techniques or technique with students.
And it's new,
And it's new, and that's the new, designation.
and we, hopefully have captured
And we
the
made some changes
Yep.
last month, just tweaking it just a little bit.
Oh, but it doesn't look like we finished. Okay, someone needs to email that to me so we can get it finished. We're gonna have to move it to the next one, because like school, we needed to replace all that with AKCS.
Let me double.
And had it been, yeah, we didn't do it throughout.
Apologies, I
No,
didn't do
that's
that
okay.
real
No,
time.
that's okay.
No,
I'm
it's
just
okay.
looking up the
We-
last version of what we did last.
Yeah.
meeting.
So if you'll email it to me, Fabian, I can zip it back around to you tomorrow to look at, or, this week before the break, because I have some room this week.
So this
I
will
don't
be
know
a
if I
new
will.
second reading.
It'll be a new second reading, yeah, just like we had to do for the next one we got. Or we might have forgotten it too, because I clearly have been a mess for the past few weeks. so
No, I
apologize.
don't know where the, sorry.
Okay. All right, well, then we can move on, which is kind of nice. So I can get in the Dropbox too. Don't worry about email.
Just for like my
Mhm.
knowledge, do you have to do a second reading? If there's not substantive changes, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, based on
Anything-
our policy and procedure, we do a first and a second, even if we don't change it on the first.
Okay.
So, and we need to remind ourselves, I need to make a note, because we had a second we made some changes to the, at the last meeting, we made some changes on second reading to the vehicle policy, so we need to get that one back up for final second reading.
To the vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
The field trip.
The field trip, transportation, whichever one it was that was on there, it's, here, I can tell you what number it is,
Oh, yeah.
because it's right here in my notes. We are going to, which one is it? Oh, it's right here,
Pulling it up.
8F,
This one.
yep, 8F, because we made those changes, so we need to do another second reading in January of 8F. Okay. All right, sorry about that, guys. So then I think you're up, Mr. Fabian.
All right, so strategic planning committee, we met recently to focus on a particular thing, which is the actual strategic plan. Sent some pre-reads on that, so hoping to get through as much as is reasonable on that tonight. If we have time, Dominic, I didn't get a chance to check in on the brochure, but maybe an update on that. So apologies there, but let me get a few things up so I can walk through all of this. So a few things we need to do. One, of course, is the the actual approval of the strategic plan. So we'll be walking through a few questions I have for you guys there. And then to the extent we have time, the other thing we met about is the operating system, rhythm, different terminology you guys might have used in your professions, but basically what is our frequency of how often we look at status of the policy, make sure that there's the accountability, we're on track, all of that kind of stuff, but we'll get to that. But some particular questions for us, and I'll pull up the Word document, is have we had anything that's been substantial since the last time that we need to make any big changes to the strategic plan that we had already drafted? If so, what are they? Second thing is going to be, we did add the Equity Council's input, so we have that to review as well. But since we last met in May on this, there's changes we're going to need to make to the target dates. So we'll want to look at that as well. And then hopefully, if we feel we're ready, and when we feel we're ready, we can vote on approval for this. So let me get the actual plan up here. Okay, so other than starting to look at target completion dates, which was just one that I have a change here, which is changing the date on that. We'll get back to that. We didn't do anything other than add the equity council. So I'll start with that to see if there were any concerns, changes we would need to make to this particular section.
Other than the dates, I don't think so. I think that's kind of my feeling about the whole thing, is that everything is good other than the dates. Eight, what does the Equity Council, review current programs, policies, and funding to ensure equitable practices are included? Does anyone have any idea what that means and what the Equity Council, or is this like we're saying that the board is doing that? Because I'm just a little confused on that, because that is our job.
Which one is it? I'm sorry.
Number 8,
Strategy
8.
Take this off so it's a little cleaner.
Because promote the community school, understand, I think we might have too many here. That's
Review
what
the
mine.
current program policies and funding to ensure that. This one came from the original portion of the Equity Council's strategies for the strategic plan. I'd have to go back in our notes to see how we revised this one, but I think this came down to the piece in the CLR framework where it has to do the very last piece of the CLR framework is all about kind of like that decision-making process and the lens and it kind of like the questions you're going to ask to get through that, to make a decision when you're looking at programs, policies, and funding. And so I think the idea with this strategy is now that we have that CLR framework in place to make sure that as new things are coming up, and also like looking at our current policy manual, all the different things and going kind of through that process to see if there's anything that we need to rethink, making sure that we've considered, that it's through that lens of equity.
Okay.
I think that's the connection with this one.
Okay. PJ, can you scroll back up to the main goal? I think the CLR strategy 4, and Chris, you just left us. But the CLR framework's on the website, isn't it?
Not
We
yet.
approved it, not yet?
Where it's been approved. We had to go through and just get the clean version because we had the red line version that was approved through GC. So we went through, got the clean version. It's going to be introduced to staff, posted on the website, and then we have some strategies for how it's going to be shared with the school community.
Okay, so while we're talking about that, target date May 2025, is that still? Okay. I don't have any other questions. I don't know if anybody else does.
Any other questions, concerns on this one? So just to make sure I'm clear, we good with 8 as is? Okay. All right, so that's that part of it. I did have the question that has anything changed since May that anybody saw any additions, subtractions, other stuff? Or I think our team felt it was in pretty good shape.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's anything.
Okay, then the third thing is seeing we can crank out some better completion dates on these. If we found that anything needed to change. So as an example here, the investigate reauthorization options for strategy under goal 1 with 2024 July previously. And
Well,
mostly
we did
put
do that, like, we could have checked the box, because we thought we had to re-charter. We thought we were gonna have to choose who was gonna authorize us and who was gonna recharter. We had to do that since we met in May. So we've actually checked that box off. But since we still have to keep going, I think 2025 is right.
Is it October when we're?
No, we have to make decisions, in the spring? We have to start making decisions?
Yes, by October 1st.
So I think target completion date, July 2025 is the right date, because we need to be talking about that in order to do our applications. Because our charter renewal, we have to submit that next year, right, by January?
October.
So we have to make decisions before, by July, because we have to know what we're submitting.
Well, we have to know which application we're gonna
Uh-huh.
do. Yeah.
Yeah, which authorizer we're gonna do.
Right, and we have that as a old business on the agenda
Yeah.
again tonight. We can talk about what the committee's been working on.
Okay, the second one is the design and implement process for terminology updates. I'm getting feedback on charter, vision, mission, any changes as it relates to that,
Did I
all of
sleep?
that.
I thought we did that when we had I thought we updated mission and vision when we did strategic planning.
It stayed the same.
Okay,
I think
I thought we
I
changed
thought
words.
the discussion was mission and vision, you had to get, the process was that you had to get feedback to do it, or I think that's what this.
I'm having a distinct memory that we changed words on the screen when we were in that room, to the mission and the vision.
So-
Like we changed words in it.
Or like drafted something,
Mm-hmm,
or at least in the notes.
So
but
I
I,
compared this version to the previous version when we were like, writing the summary to go on that flyer, and they're word for word the same.
yeah, but,
The
Okay.
notes from.
yeah, because I remember him redlining vision and mission in the strategic plan.
Mm-hmm.
We updated words.
We get those notes, do you get his notes?
I don't know, but we did update words. I didn't make that up, right? Okay.
Let me see if I have it.
Yeah, and I mean, because we were doing it in real time on the screen, having the discussion when we were in that room.
This would have been, I think, the one all in the room. Some sort of side by side here.
Well, we don't have to do it this evening, I mean, we can leave it, we can put a date on it.
And my question to that, because it just says TBD, wanting a date specific, if we are going to update the vision mission, shouldn't those things be done before we recharter?
Probably.
Yes, so, I mean, they go hand in hand, so I would say target completion date would go hand in hand with that July date when we put our application out there. So if tonight's exercise is to at least put a recommended completion date, then I would say July.
Yeah.
July.
You might want to ask Jenny, because she may have the draft I'm thinking of.
So so the notes that I have, my personal notes that aren't very good. It says decide what revisions may be needed, an exploration because changes need stakeholder involvement, parents, teachers, etc. So we may have redlined it as like, here's some things that we should think about, but I don't think we actually made the changes. And then on the mission notes, I had need to change structure, curriculum language, and the words that I have written down were core standards, rigorous, high standards. Like we wanted to add a more academic flavor. Does that ring any bells?
My notes from that session are at home on my desk, but I think I even wrote on the draft what we changed, so I'll go back and look. But I think the target completion date needs to be, the same. I agree with Veronica, July 2025, that's gonna do it. And I think we're gonna need another day. I mean, this feels like, even this part feels like we need another half day to get through. So I'm not certain how far we're gonna get in.
Okay.
Well, and here's the thing, like the work that Jenny and I had done as the previous members of this committee, with each of these different sections, what we would do is we would say, okay, who are the stakeholders? And then each month we would try to meet, like, do we meet with Equity Council? Do we meet with PTA? And working with those individual populations month after month, then we would come back and we'd say, this was the recommended completion and had it updated. So that might make it go a little faster. But if there are specific stakeholders in each of the goals, then just meeting with them, throughout the year makes it, and then our group would, I think, once a year at least, go through and check in with everything. So, or if there's something significant, we would report out as needed. So that could make things go a little faster. But I agree with you, at least another half day. And especially if we're gonna be,
If we're gonna do vision and mission, but I swear we redlined it and that we were gonna, after we finalize this, start talking to stakeholders about changes. I don't know why I believe that, but that's my memory. So,
My sense is starting to prove correct that we were gonna need more time.
yes.
Yep.
Because a lot of time has passed and we have different memories and narratives of how things went.
Exactly.
Oh, sooner rather than later, right?
Yeah.
Sooner rather than later.
Yeah,
Okay, so right now I'll pause on,
maybe we
On
could look
this.
at, a day in January that we could just meet, or, for a few hours on a Saturday. February.
Early February.
January.
Early February.
Right after Christmas.
No, I want to check out
Late
for the next 2
January,
weeks here
February.
shortly.
do we need that same facilitator for that, or we can just handle it ourselves?
I think we can just go through it ourselves. I don't think we, and I think if I have my notes, we might be able to resolve this, or we'll just work on it from scratch.
And the other part is making sure the whole team is able to, or at least most of the whole team, because I think with Aaron and Dave, both of them would probably have some pretty
Okay,
significant thoughts on it.
If it's in January, just.
Well, why don't
After 3 would be best.
I mean, I don't know what, I don't know what Aaron and Dave's lives look like, and Aaron's is always like mine. But why don't we look at,
Dave seems to travel a lot.
yeah. Let's see, when am I in Arizona? That's the problem with January and February is soccer tournaments.
Last year, we did the first Saturday in February, that we had that scheduled for the budget training. So if we're gonna do any kind of budget training, if those things become coupled.
Yeah, February 1st, I think February is too early for Laura for budget training though, right?
We did it
I think we
February
did it
3rd
last
last
year.
year. We did it February 3rd, the first Saturday.
Okay, well, February 1st is the first Saturday of February. If we want to try and tentatively plan to do something here from, I don't know, 9 to noon. Then if you
Also,
want to do
sports
budget
in
training, we
February.
could.
Basketball.
Yeah, basketball. It is.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
All the things.
So is it better in the afternoon then, was what you're saying?
There haven't been any games after 3. I could check the schedule and get back to the house, but I know we haven't had any games after 3 since we started.
Yeah, but we can't start this discussion at 3 or 4 in the afternoon.
Why not? We just go to
Because no one will show up. I won't. I'll be asleep by then. If I'm not at soccer.
I'm gonna be asleep at 3 in the afternoon. I'm kidding.
If I'm not at soccer, I might be. I don't sleep during the week.
if we go with the first, I can do that.
I think we should tentatively plan the first And then Laura, how much time do you need for budget training?
I think it was an hour for each section, and there's 3 parts.
So that's 3 hours. And then we probably need 2 hours to get through this. So
I
that's
think
all
we
day.
did 2 hours, and then the one was with the public when we went over
Mhm.
budget. So I think the training in February was 2 total.
Yeah, we had 9 to 11 that day in February.
Okay.
Actually, the games are like only an hour, so I can come before or after or whatever it gets scheduled.
In between,
Yeah.
yeah.
So when do we want to start?
I think we should start at 9. What do you guys think? And then just try to power through and we can order pizzas or something to eat for lunch. And I'll bring coffee. That way we can,
About 3 hours max? 9 to noon?
9 to noon, or we could do 9 to 1. I think probably let's 2 hours for you,
Yeah.
2 hours for strategic planning.
Oh, gotcha.
That's fine.
9 to 1.
We're trying to do 2 things. We're trying to do 2 things on one day.
She's like, you want to talk about budget for 4 hours?
No, you're not doing 4 hours. I think we should plan 9 to 1 and see what happens.
Cool.
And then that way we can get everything taken care of in one whack. Does that date work for you, Fabian?
Yes, it does. Yep.
And I'm sorry, Dominic, we can be flexible. You can come in and out or be late.
Okay. So the other order of business was the brochure, and any updates on that?
No updates, and I can't remember where we left off because we were still having a conversation and I think I had to leave, so. I was there for most of that conversation, but I think we were looking to release it in January, right? The next opportunity was gonna be in January.
I can't remember now. What was the next time we could put it in parents' hands? Was that January?
No, it's not January.
We had talked about, the teachers have, or the students have like their folders that the teachers put stuff to send home in, and that we could just let it be part of that
That's right.
process.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like whenever.
And I just need lead time to get the printing done, guys. So, if we want to get it out, I need a final and then I need to get the printing done and get them here. So,
Okay.
and I don't want to pressurize my printer too much, so I need to at least have a couple of weeks to give him time. I mean, he can probably spit them out in 24 hours, but I don't want to say I need them tomorrow.
And I think I still
I
have
need them tomorrow for free, thank you.
some notes, Dominic, on like some of the changes, like pictures and making sure some things were updated. Somebody has just kind of huddle up, yeah.
Yeah, it looks like I got actually through discussions of approvals. Yeah, I think I should be able to make these changes pretty fast.
I think Anna needs to talk to you about one little update.
Oh, the picture?
Yes.
Yeah, there was one person that.
Yes.
Yeah. And the other thing I had was, what are we doing as a school community? Do we have those partnerships that we include?
Did I not send, I thought I sent that to you.
I think that's what Christy was gonna send you the language.
Uh-huh.
Okay,
Anyhow.
very good.
Okay, we'll get it. All right, that's it for strategy.
All righty. Mr. Jason, we are on to new business. Will you please present our audit results?
Happy to do so.
Just let me know which settings to
Would you
open.
mind going to the Dropbox? I can tell by the file names that we didn't, you the latest and greatest. Laura and I found a few.
I did earlier.
Under,
You did, but I feel like you may have sent him, I bounced it off our previous chain, and just by the numbering of the files, I can tell there was still 4.
Okay.
So in the audit reports, 2024, Yeah, I used to prepare 4 different files because the auditors would give us their exit conference brief, whenever we attend the exit conference. And I think we made our auditors mad this time, so they didn't want to provide us an exit conference. No, and I just speak to Jordan, I don't really mean that we made it mad, but for whatever reason, they decided not to share their exit notes with us. But I wouldn't walk through it anyhow in this discussion, so you're not missing anything. You want to open one, and I apologize, I realized I sent this to the audit committee, but I didn't send it to the whole board, so. 1 is our 3-page summary that I'm gonna walk through now. 2 is the 82-page audit report. And for several years, I would walk through that just at a high level, and I'd see a lot of glassy eyes. We can do that. I can tell you the auditors do that with us in our exit conference. And as a seasoned finance professional, I'm pretty much just waiting for them to stop talking about walking through the report and get to the findings and let us know if there's anything that they think we really need to work on.
Yep.
So I will handle this through, just this 3-page summary. Does everybody on the board, you all have access to the Dropbox, right?
Yes.
So if you want to walk through file number 2 at your leisure when you're having a hard time sleeping and read the 82 pages, and if you have any questions, there's a good chance that myself, Nora, Laura, and Christy would be able to explain it, because the purpose of these, financial audits, we're a cash-based school, so we get a certain amount of money every year, and we try to spend as much as we can on doing our mission, and then government auditing and accounting standards make us convert all that into an accrual basis and give a profit and loss statement and a net position statement. So that's really the gist of everything in the report. I don't want to say you're not getting anything out of it, because we do spend $5,000 to $10,000 a year paying our auditors to do this. But
No, 20.
It's like 20.
Yeah, it's gone up.
We have our own reports now, and we have 2 years.
Oh, no, wasn't it more because of our own report? I think 20 was just the audit.
Oh, is it?
Well, we had 2 checks on last month's check register that were about 20, and then you said there was another payment due.
I just made 20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
The last one I did today, so.
Okay, disregard what I said. We're getting a lot of value out of what these auditors are doing for us. So Moss Adams was a general auditor for the 7th year in a row, but it will be the last time I got.
I was gonna say, we have to hire a new auditor this
We got to
year.
retrain auditors.
Yeah.
How to do business, but as Rhonda has been in business a long time, I'll tell you, there's not a whole lot of people out there that can handle the AKCS audit. So chances are it's going to be a firm that we've seen before.
Yeah.
7 years ago. Entrance conference, July 17th, the fieldwork date. You'll probably wonder, why is the audit fieldwork after the exit conference? We did have a pretty thorough discussion with them during the exit conference, and it sounds like I had some follow-up questions I want to ask. I actually had some samples pulled after that. The good news is, when we had the exit conference, did we have 2 potential findings or 3? 2. And as you'll see today, we have 1. So we were able to answer their questions. At the beginning of the audit every year, they give us key audit areas that they're going to focus on. These are all very common sense things like revenue and expense, which is where they spend the vast majority of their time. Pension, if you do read the report, pension is by far our biggest liability, but we don't really do anything to manage pension at the school. This is just our share of the entire state's ERB pension liability. So if it looks like we have a net position, which we do in our financial statements, is because we have a very large share of the ERB's overall pension liability. Leases is a focus this year. We didn't have any problem in our leases, the right to use assets. GASB 96, subscription-based IT arrangements. That's the newer one. Was that 2 years ago was our first year with that?
Last year.
Last year was our first year with that, and no problems there, but it's something to look at.
That was that whole thing we had to deal with, right?
The subscription ones, trying to figure out.
No, the procedure, was that one?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was that, right? Okay.
Are you talking about a prior finding?
No, when we were talking about, did we have to hurry up and do a procedure for the bat before they finished the audit, so we wouldn't get a finding?
I don't even think they did anything with those either. So we still have time for this year to look at it.
Okay, good.
So item number 5 on that, the audit rule compliance testing. This is the area that you will see, we did get a finding. This is primarily where they look at our procurement processes, our budget compliance, and really the internal control structure. Looking at this, I realized I should probably always put that opinion as the first item in our discussion. But that's really what we care about, is getting that unmodified opinion. Unmodified doesn't sound very interesting. That is what we are going for. So, a very positive outcome. We had no material misstatements. Notable financial highlights. These are things that they point out in their growth in revenues is a good thing. I noticed the revenues increased by 36%. And a lot of that was program revenues and an increase in SEG funding. So after hearing how Christie opened the discussion, are we going to actually see a decrease in SEG funding from last year to the tune of a couple $100,000? But our revenues increased substantially over our expenses, and I think this is the story Chrissy was telling us just a while ago. She was able to mitigate our lower SEG funding just by not hiring a certain position. So I don't expect our financial position, even with that, to decrease significantly. And we had increased 36% this year. I don't remember what last year's numbers was. I think it was in the 20-something% range. But really over the last 2 years, we've put ourselves in a good position as far as carryover and all that. So I think that's really all I'd highlight there. The finding and responses, this is technically a repeat finding because it's an internal control over financial reporting. And the information there in the parentheses is material weakness. That is an important thing. It's something we spent a lot of time talking about and looking at. We've only had, so material weakness is the more significant category of findings, and then significant deficiency, even though that sounds pretty significant, is the less critical of the finding categories. We've only had 2 of these in the time frame that I can remember. I went back to 2019 and didn't see any, and Laura went back in 2016 was the last one we had. So I'm not alarming the council here. I don't think it was as significant. I think it's a type of what they found that they have to call it a material weakness. We didn't terribly misstate anything. We didn't improperly account for money. We didn't, lose a large sum of money. It basically came down to preparal of accrual entries. I look at this as a tiny issue, and I don't want to minimize it, because this is something we're taking very seriously. Laura and I have talked about it a lot, or Christy and I have talked about it a lot. We're going to be very careful in how we prepare accrual entries. We're going to have the finance committee look at them next year. We're going to have the audit committee look at them. But really, we uploaded the file. They give us a template and ask us to fill it out. And we took the template before we finally completed it or uploaded it into the system. We won't do that again. We will only upload it once we think it's perfect.
So what did they find?
They found that they didn't have the proper accrual entries in that file that she uploaded.
Yeah.
And the file she uploaded was...
It's kind of a worksheet that you just kind of
Fill
putting, it's not your actual accruals. It's just something you start entering things into.
Okay.
It's a planning worksheet.
Yeah,
right?
there
To
you
help you plan your accruals.
Mm-hmm.
So
But they
on
took that.
our books though, like
No.
not their worksheet, on our books, our accruals were fine.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And the accrual...
Literally, their worksheet that they were expecting, they're expecting to see accruals.
Mhm.
something else was uploaded, and so they're counting that.
As an internal control problem that they caused. I'm just saying.
Well, we gotta be careful with that, because they actually responded to our management response on the finding,
Yeah.
saying, we're very clear that we give you documents to help you out, but it's still your responsibility to do the accounting. So,
But our books in our accounting
Well,
system had it correct,
no,
right? No.
But because we do cash basis and we're modifying it to accrual, like they can't just look at our final book and say, oh, that's what it is. We have to provide the entries to help it all balance by the end.
Okay.
So for them, when they see just what our year-end reporting is, it's not enough. They need the entries to be able to.
I don't think you guys are understanding my question. On the entries that you had in your system without their, whatever you put in there,
Yeah.
your work here, not what you uploaded or what their worksheet was it correct on the accruals?
well, here again, we don't do accrual accounting.
I know, but you have to transfer it, but our work, our internal work to change from cash to accrual was correct.
It was done in a worksheet that we give to the auditors,
Okay.
and when they looked at the file we had up there, was the planning file, they thought that was our worksheet of accrual entry. That was not. She was preparing the accrual entries to be uploaded at a later date. She hadn't finished it the day they looked at it and decided they didn't like that. By the time they were here on site the day, what was it, September 16th?
Yeah.
The correct
Was that
worksheet was uploaded. But our actual books, our financial system, we don't have to do accrual accounting. So it's not, we didn't have any mistakes. Our books for cash accounting were perfect.
And so that's why I mean, I'm not discounting the finding either, but, they're saying that we've got an internal control problem. We don't have an internal control problem. That's what I'm upset about, because our internal controls work. And they are here, and we've made them stronger over the years. So though they find a material finding that our internal controls are problematic, that's not actually true.
And I definitely don't think it is indicative of a material weakness.
Yeah,
So I don't 100% agree with the way you just couched it,
okay.
but I don't think it's a material weakness. I think our internal controls over doing our accounting, our cash basis accounting, are absolutely solid. Part of our responsibility, whether we agree with it or not, I don't see any value as a community member, as a parent of the school, in this exercise of going from cash to accrual accounting. That's a government idea, a government accrual idea.
Then why don't they make us be accrual financials? Why do we have to be cash?
Well, because that's not how we're funded.
I understand, because they want to come pull it out.
Yeah.
So they want it cash, not accrual. They don't want us to carry over.
Oh, and they don't want us depreciating things and using that as our actual expenses. They want to be able to tell us if we can spend money on equipment in the building. You can only do that when we fully appropriate you 100% to do that. We don't want you to spend your own money of X amount of dollars and charge the government,
Well, I apologize for my ranting and derailing.
No,
Keep going.
I
Just-
appreciate
Question
you.
related to that though is, so the report, it's like a public thing, right? It gets published.
Yes.
I worry about like folks looking at that, whoever would choose to do it. And maybe they're not as educated, and then they start coming to conclusions based on something that we don't agree with based on the way you articulated it. So that's why that kind of bugs me too.
Well, and I see the corrective action, timely prepare accrual entries after the end of the fiscal year. So I guess based on that, they're complaining that it wasn't prepared by September when the first upload in the worksheet happened. That's what they're complaining about? Okay.
I feel like they're complaining that what I uploaded wasn't complete, and that's what they wanted to see. Because I did.
Well, that's what I feel like they're.
Yeah, because it was a planning document, and that's how I viewed it, and I was like, okay, I can give them a little bit to start as we finish, because we needed to review it. It was part of our corrective action plan, because this is now a repeat finding, and they wanted it pristine. They had told me that whatever you upload is what we have to assume you have. We don't know which schools have deferred revenue and blah, 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 so they can't make assumptions that it's not incomplete, even though it was a planning document.
Well, why was it categorized as an internal control thing then?
I think it's because my reporting. Internally, I'm preparing it and I'm reporting it to them. And so they're saying it needs to be finalized and perfect, pretty much.
And it's our responsibility to convert from cash to
Yes.
accrual. Because the government requires us to do accrual accounting. So although it's not her day job, what she does, she manages the school on a cash basis. So part of it at that last month of the fiscal year into the, first month of the next fiscal year, that's part of our responsibility to do that. And it's an easy fix, it really is. And we talked about it today at the finance.
So what procedure do they want to have in place to ensure that we're more timely in converting it from cash to accrual?
We talked about that today. It's probably going to be 3 or 4 sentences saying, we will timely.
What I just said.
And what we'll probably do is put together a finance audit committee, the kind of the collective financial meeting sometime in early August. Check to make sure we have that done.
That sounds like a plan to me.
And
I have the same concern you do, that they're identifying as internal control, because normal people think internal controls means nobody's minding the shop.
Yeah.
That's a different issue.
I don't think normal people are gonna read this, just.
No.
I'm kidding.
I fully admit that I'm not normal, so that's fine.
But to answer, I do want to answer Fabian's question. I think we are going to pull up the report just to look at the finding. We're very concerned about that, about the general public reading it. So we're pretty careful when we give our responses. And I would argue that we were so careful this year, we may have poked it in the eye a little bit, that they gave a response to our response. Like, you guys are trying to make it sound like we just wouldn't go in there and look at your correct document that you pointed out on day one of the audit, not day one, but day one of the field work on the side. Like, it was there the day you were here and you didn't bother looking at it because you already saw something ugly before that you didn't like. So you're not even going to consider what we had on the file before. So I think we may have poked in the eye a little about that. But it is a repeat finding. This is the prior year. What was the related finding?
It was the duplicate of the payroll liabilities.
That's right.
Because I had provided an accrual entry, but the system had captured it yet. And this year I made sure not to get that, but it fell in the other parts, so.
So all that to say, they really do with the accruals, and that's kind of the whole point of their audit, is to take us from cash basis to accruals. So we're going to keep looking hard at these ones. We resolved prior year findings on the procurement compliance code. That procurement, Jan King, the janitorial services contract, that stuck with us for 2 years just because of the timing that we had on it. We are going to get new auditors, and they're already being very careful on how they do that procurement, so we don't see that again. So, but bottom line, and I probably should have started with this, we had a very successful audit. Our financial position is going strong. The auditors know that. So there's nothing to be concerned with from a governing council perspective, I would argue, but we do want to be careful to
And I know.
our internal controls.
Yeah, and I like that sentence, the internal controls over accrual entries. Knowing that it's a timing issue more than an actual problem, is helpful. So, no, I agree. I mean, one finding, I don't like that it's a material finding, but it's still a pretty clean audit. So.
Okay, so Fabian, would you mind opening? You can open either of the documents because it'll be in there.
Either of these?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you open number 2, that's going to be the 82-page report. And go down.
77, 78-ish.
Towards the end.
Mm-hmm. There it is.
So in that planning file, just for context here, the condition, they noticed those 4 errors or those 4 categories of errors there. And that was in that planning document. They looked at the planning document and said, we don't think you have these right. But by the time we put up the actual journal entries, we have that correct.
So I want to talk about 2 of them real quick. The prepaid expenditures. the last, so this is my third audit. The last 2 audits I've had, I've been able to update those, and I've never been dinged for that before, so I've learned a lesson. It better not be changed along the way, no matter what, because they can decide.
I still decided, I still updated them as I found different things. I just notified them and redated it.
And I did too. They never caught them. It was me updating them.
Yeah,
And
so you updated first.
so I learned a lesson with that. I had, for the last 2 years thought it was okay. Clearly it's not. And the second bullet, the negative cash one, that one was actually on the cash report I submitted for the fourth quarter file. And I actually worked with Rhonda to look at it and be like, what on earth happened here? So on our cash report, you guys see all the individual funds we have on my financial reports. The cash report combines a lot of them. So it combines the 24,000s. And in this one, it combined the 27,000 fund. The issue came in is I treated it as combining the funds, whereas it should have been represented, even though they were combined, as if they were separate almost. So that the cash balance of one of the funds should have been carry over as like a revenue carryover, and it didn't because I combined it with the expenditures of the other fund. Mm-hmm. So that was my mistake on that one. I just thought that's how all the funds were kind of represented on the cash report, and I kind of learned, well, in this specific situation, I have to be careful about how am I representing it, even though it's combined, am I showing a true carryover for certain funds for cash balances? Yeah.
And is it just that fund, or when you're doing this again next year, you're gonna have to be alert to that on multiple funds? Is it just the 27?
Yeah, I was gonna say I need to pay attention to all of them.
Yeah, they can find 24, 25, 26 in the cash report.
Yeah. Yeah. And that one was just different because we usually don't receive the actual money up front. And in this fund we did this year, and that was kind of odd. We don't typically do that. We typically get a budget, but then I reimburse and then we get the money. This one, they preemptively put the money in the bank. So it was a little bit different than what we typically work with in terms of receiving cash.
So where did they poke us back?
Oh, we have to scroll down now.
I'm super curious about that.
Okay, so you can tell we devoted 3 paragraphs to our agency response. And we basically described in writing carefully so an outside reader could understand. We don't have a great, misappropriation of money we're doing this here. We just explain the whole process. And if you want to read them all, welcome to. If not, you can see the response below that paragraph.
Yeah, the response is a little lower. Yeah, the Moss Adams response there.
Actually, I'm not too concerned by that poking.
No.
I'm really not, because what the words say, you can see that they're trying to say.
And we got on the record that we didn't have a gross, mishandling of money or anything. So we got on the record how the process happened and maybe where the mistakes were. I hate to say it, but our excuse, like, yes, we made an error, but here's why. And they just want to get on the record, like, no excuses. You should have had the right thing in the right place at the right time. And we're taking that seriously.
When do they start audit work? Do they tell you? Did we know?
That's in June. Yeah, well, so we usually do like an entrance conference in July, and they ask for like your preference for your starting dates. And I mean, even last year, we tried to get a later one, and we were early last year. It was pretty brutal. Yeah. I mean, like I started, I think it was the last Friday of July is when I started, which is a pretty quick turnaround for all the financials. This year, we got to start, what was the date again? September, and that was nicer. The later start date makes it easier because, the public education department's reviewed everything. You've been able to even like get your financials together and make sure everything went through properly. And you have more time to prepare all this when it's a little bit later.
Yeah.
But I think that's the latest they ever start, Dominic, is about mid-September on these.
And I don't want the takeaway to be that we disagree with our auditors and we're having trouble with them.
Right.
Moss Adams has been good partners for 7 years. We've learned a lot from them. They've given us a lot of help along the way in templates. They've got a job to do, and they
Okay.
did their job, and their job is heavily focused on taking schools' cash books and turning it into accruals, and it's a very tedious job and demanding job. So we're not trying to make a statement that we had trouble with them, but I don't think we agree that this rises to the level of material weakness, and they talk about some rule in their audit book that says that has to. But as the committee, we want you to know that Laura wasn't just absurdly derelict in any of her duties. The school wasn't derelict in their duties. We learned a lesson on timing, and we're gonna really be careful to dot our i's and cross our t's.
No, and I appreciate that, Jason, and I agree with you. You know, Moss Adams has been a good partner, you know, Laura and the administration and this board work really hard to keep our finances correct and to ask questions. And so I appreciate the work that they've done. It just, you know, feels icky. And so that's why I had a reaction, but I do agree with everything that you said. And, you know, again, to reiterate, I think, you know, one finding, even though it's significant, overall is a good audit. So thank you all for all your hard work. And I do like the idea of audit committee getting with Laura, you know, after the end of the fiscal year pretty early and just kind of coming up with a plan and a path forward and maybe some milestones.
We're gonna work on that during the next finance committee meeting and try to figure out what we need as far as policies and try to figure out a timeline to set that up.
That sounds
And if we
good.
can get some really good financial accounting expertise from them. Get maybe Ben to come talk to us, definitely get Rhonda in there too.
Well,
She's seen and done a lot of this.
don't discount, and I would like to take this opportunity, Jason, to thank you again and on behalf of all of us for all your years of service in doing this and, you know, heading our audit committee and steering us in the right direction and all of your service to the school and the board. We appreciate you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
So anything else on the audit, questions, concerns, anything else, Jason, you want to go over?
No, that covers it. Good work to the administration, to Laura, and the administration. There's a lot that goes into accounting for all of this and getting it to the point, so.
Do we need to, and this is just me not remembering or anything else, we don't have it on tonight's agenda, but do we need to put on January's agenda that we certify that we went over the audit?
I always relied on Jenny for that thinking. I feel like she did.
I feel like we needed to take a vote that we certified that we went through the audit and over the findings. So we'll add that to January because we didn't put action on.
Yeah, just look at last year's agenda.
Apparently all of us had a hard month this month and our agenda was not perfect, but we will
We all
fix it
relied
next
on
month.
Jenny for that.
We'll fix it next month.
And last year I briefed the middle of January, so whatever agenda you're looking for to do that, look at the.
Yeah, I think it just says, and I missed it on this agenda because last week was just not okay. But I think we just say discussion and certification. And so we can just add that. And, you know, Jason, I won't make you come back because I think I can summarize that we went over everything and discussed the audit report findings and how we're going to proceed and then certify that we did that.
I think we must have missed it on last year's agenda too, because I copied and pasted it
Directly.
directly.
We did it in January though.
Yeah, probably, because.
Yeah, we
probably
may have
missed
gotten
it.
the audit results and then certified in January. Okay.
This was early this year.
Well, yeah, I didn't brief until January last time.
Yeah, so we may have certified. I can't remember.
Okay.
But we will make sure we check our boxes and certify that we discuss the audit, we understand it, and we'll vote on that at the next meeting. All right, I think that is everything. Thank you again, Jason. And now we are on discussion and distribution of head administrator mid-evaluation and self-evaluation. And I think that all we need to do tonight is set some deadlines for Christy to do her self-evaluation and when we want to do our evaluations and when we're going to vote on it, at what meeting. So typically what Jenny would do is start with Christy, if I'm remembering correctly. how long do you need and when would you like to get us your self-evaluation?
I cannot remember. I think it's shifted. I can't remember exactly what I need to do on it. I'll have to pull up the documents again and take a look at it. It won't take very long, but we are right here on the winter break. So I could have it to you, because you want to look at it in January probably.
So let's see.
I'm gonna type time.
I'm looking at my Jenny notes. Hang on 1 second. I may have instructions. That's one set of Jenny notes.
Because our next meeting's January 15th, so,
Mhm.
which is a week after we come back from break.
Yeah, and we have to
So
get,
it's tight.
and one of us, probably me or Connie can help, because I think she's still on this committee. But one of us has to send out, oh, look, there's notes, woohoo! Okay, we are a little behind. Okay, so mid-year, put out the evaluation to you, yourself one, and ours, and deadlines. And then we put it together before the meeting. So I think probably we're gonna need to have a special meeting, or we're gonna need to have it concluded at the February meeting.
Yeah, I was just
Because
gonna
I
ask,
need
like,
to get
is it
the,
mandatory to do that in January, or is February reasonable?
I think February is reasonable. I mean, it's a little late for mid-year because we got behind mid-year in November. And I think Rhonda actually poked me on this and I couldn't find my notes and I gave wrong instructions. So, because my
So
notes
we
say
are late then.
mid-year November, put out evaluation deadlines, put together before the meeting, December, discuss. So this says end of year, so that we have the time frame for end of year. We need to do, the process needs to start in May and we need to vote on it in June, do the evaluation for the end of year. But we may need to move that up a little bit given contracts, but that mid and end of year evaluation letter, yeah, I have to do that. But see, I have notes, I have instructions. So we're a little behind and that's my fault. So, I think, Christy, if you wanna, I think I need to figure out what I need to send to the board. It's in the Dropbox. I'm just not 100% sure what we need to do. So given the holidays and you guys going on break, I think what I would like to do is say, I'll get the evaluations out to the board the first full week of January. If you can get us your self-evaluation by like I don't know, what is the calendar?
I can turn it around pretty quickly
Yeah.
as long as I know which form I'm supposed to do.
Yeah, and I can.
It's shifted over the last few years, so I just want to make sure I'm doing the correct one.
No, and I'll look and I will look and tell you which form, because I also have to send the form out to the board that we have to do. And Jenny had some magic I need to figure out. I may have to call her because we had charts and stuff that is above my pay grade, but we'll figure it out. So I think if I can get the stuff out to the board no later than the 10th of January, and if you can get us I'm looking at February's meeting, will be the 19th, yes? So if you can, if I get the board stuff out, if everyone can have, and I'll put this in an email, their responses back by January 24th. So Christy, if you could do yours by then, and then we'll do ours by then.
But don't you have to see mine in order to do yours? That's typically what we do.
Is that what we normally do? Okay, then you need to
I
get
usually
yours.
send mine like a week prior.
Yeah, so if you can get yours to us by, let's do this then, the 17th
Okay.
of January. And then I will be able to figure out, we can be able to figure out what we need to get out. And we have our board meeting's the 22nd. So we can get the board stuff out that week, give us a week to work on it, and then we can compile and be ready for the February 19th meeting.
Wait, I have down that our January meeting is the 15th.
I haven't written.
Oh, it is the 15th. I'm sorry, I lied. So what did I just say? Yeah, okay, so let's stay on that schedule anyways. The 17th for you, Christy.
Got it.
And then I'll get the stuff out to the governing board by the end of the 24th and give them their deadline to get it back. And then we should have enough time to compile them and the committee to meet
So the
before.
week of January 24th.
Yeah, and then we'll have enough time to get the committee together, put the thoughts together, and be prepared for the 19th meeting.
And that's the approval?
Yeah, we do closed session, discuss the evaluation with her, and then I write a little letter that says, we did your evaluation, and it goes in her personnel file. But all that happens in closed session. So we'll have closed session on head administrator mid-year evaluation in February. Does that sound okay?
Yep.
See, look, I was so proud I brought my notes tonight. I had a feeling I was gonna need Jenny instructions. Okay, is there anything else, Christy or Rhonda or Pat, that we think we need to talk about on evaluation?
When I put that on the agenda for February, I don't have to say it's for the head administrator evaluation, I just have to put the reference.
Personnel matter.
Personnel matter.
Mhm. And I will help you on that. We've hired a couple people, so maybe my life will turn into some kind of reasonableness again. That would be nice. I mean, my reasonable's crazy, but I can handle reasonable crazy. What I've been living is not okay. And I think that's everything on head administrator evaluation, and that was all the new business we had, right?
Yes.
So look at us, we planned meetings, we've got a schedule, and I'm sorry we're behind. And I think that's, and then Christy, you wanted to talk about charter renewal committee, we've been doing, that's our last item.
Oh, yes, okay, so the Charter Renewal Committee met November 24th, I believe, right before Thanksgiving break. That committee is Rhonda, Laura, Aaron, and myself. And we just kind of ran through some thoughts about where are we at in terms of current renewals that we've seen come through recently with both AKCS and PEC. Talked about schools that moved from one authorizer to another authorizer. Just discussed some information that we've seen coming out and about through some different meetings, and just try to get a game plan together for how we're going to move forward. So right now, the plan is that Laura is going to start working on some numbers. So we have some financial information to look at. And then we're going to meet again in February. And I think the hope is that we have something to bring back to the February GC meeting, if I remember correctly. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Okay. So right now, it's just a kind of a preliminary, like, where are we at? What do we need to pull together so that we can
To look at both.
exactly.
Okay.
So that's it.
Yeah, pros and cons of, and what we need to do for APS and what we would need to do for PE.
Exactly.
Do you want me to put that on January,
we
January,
would-
just leave it on?
Just-
Leave it on for January, but put it on for February.
Okay.
But we can leave our old business charter renewal discussion on for February.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. Yeah, because I think, well, hopefully, the goal is by that point, we'll have something to actually bring and start discussing with the board.
Mhm.
And do you feel that that group would come with a recommendation or mostly just information?
Probably
So the bigger
information at
discussion?
that point, and probably our ideas and thoughts. I don't know if we'll be able to pull, we might be able to pull a recommendation together at that point. I think the idea is to present the information that we have at that point to you all, see if there's anything else you feel like you still need, and then it gives us some time to kind of work through kind of some back and forth if we need to.
Well, and I think, once we have a recommendation / or not, and the board makes some preliminary decisions and discussion, I think, we're gonna have to have stakeholder involvement. So I appreciate that we're getting on it early and figuring out, which directions and what we want to do. Because I remember the last time we had this conversation, it was a lot. And there were a lot of things that we were talking about at the same time that are probably going to be the similar things we're talking about this time. So, so we need time to get where we need to be. So thank you, Christy and committee, for doing that. All right, anything else to come before the board? Not that we can do anything because of Open Meetings Act, but anything else we need to discuss? We got it?
The one thing I missed, what day you all, are you planning to bring the information for discussion?
Hopefully at the February GC meeting.
All right, well then I will entertain a motion to adjourn, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Rhonda. I will second. All in favor? Aye. All right, thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful Christmas.
Wait, don't let them go. Can we just quickly talk about the March meeting?
Oh, yeah, we can, and that's okay, because it's just scheduling, so we're not breaking any rules.
Right.
So right now, our March meeting is scheduled smack in the middle of spring break for all of our children and our beautiful staff here, administrators. So we need to, and we can bless it at the next meeting, but just for all of our awareness, our meeting right now is on March 18th. Oh, no, that's the 20, it was 2026. Sorry, my calendar decided it wanted to go 2 years ahead. So yeah, it's the 19th. I can probably make everything happen to move it to the 12th. So if you guys want to move up, I think moving up is better than moving back because then we're going to have meetings pretty close together.
And I think we're gonna run into spring budget workshop too, if we go after.
Yeah.
Right, isn't it typically right after APS is spring break?
And this is the time of year that we may have to have special meetings anyways because of budget and everything else that goes on. So I say we move it to the 12th so that if we have to have a second meeting in March because of budget or something, we have that last week in March available. So if everyone's okay with that, we can bless it for the public, you know, you can move it on the website, but we can put it in the minutes the next meeting.
Okay, so how do you want Pat to put that on the agenda?
Yeah, I was gonna say, how do you want me to put that on the agenda?
I'll just do it in council comments,
Oh, okay.
Perfect.
because we don't have to do anything else other than make it clear that we decided.
Okay.
Or we can put it on new business, change date of March meeting, that's fine too, yeah, let's do that, change date of
In the
March,
January meeting?
in the January agenda.
Agenda.
Yes, please. Sorry, Chrissy, I forgot. Thank you for reminding me.
Well, I didn't want to bring it up during the actual meeting because it wasn't on the agenda, but I wanted to make sure it at least was on our radar before, while it's early enough, before people book dates.
I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah. So thank you, Chrissy. I forgot about that. March 12th. We'll change that. Okay. All right. Well, thank you everyone for your time and hard work this evening, and I hope everyone has a great Christmas and holidays. Hope you celebrate.